Hello and welcome to Trading Day. We are on every night at 5 p.m. through the trade period, including the finale next Wednesday evening. A big day of trades today, or big day of trade discussions, more like it. Let's get straight into it. Kingy and Joe, welcome to you. Let's unpack it with Ralphie from the Herald Sun. You broke the only trade story today, Nathan Kruger. Tell us what happened and bring us up to speed.
Well, it was a minnow rather than a whopper, but it was still a story nonetheless. So last night we got the complicated trade. This morning, the fruits of that exchange and that pick swap allowed Collingwood to secure Nathan Kruger, the key position tool from Geelong. So the Cats secured pick 41 and handed back pick 55. So no princely sum, but having played for 3 years as a key position defender at Geelong, he very much will play as a key position forward at the Pies. Add to another quality tool alongside Brodie Myercheck and Darcy Cameron. So guys, you wouldn't have seen much of him. He's only really played 1 year of exposed football, but by gosh, they need another key marking tool there at Collingwood.
Yeah, they do, and essentially, as you said, they get him for nothing. So there's no harm in trying, and essentially, it's an upgrade on Mason Cox. You would think younger, more talented, 22-year-old. So, I mean, it's nice for Collingwood, but I'm still not sure that having a Kruger, Myercheck, Darcy Cameron as your three tall forwards is going to be potent enough to be scaring the oppositions at this stage. But as you said, they needed some more key position talent and they were able to get him for basically nothing.
They're the trades I like, the ones that are a bit of a free hit.
Yeah.
OK, so we've seen this guy who's left-footed, can move a bit, got a bit of a step. I don't mind it. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to work or not. We didn't know who Myercheck was until he became what he is. So I don't mind this idea and I don't mind the fact they've spent nothing to get him.
I think it just makes you realise how far away Collingwood are. And then we all love the list build, but so Melbourne in 3 finals kicked 13-15, 19-11 and 21-14. And so, look, you know, he's an exciting young player there, but they're...
But they did that getting Ben Brown at the end. I mean, you don't have to get all your pieces at the start. You can stagger your list.
I just think they're probably 4 or 5 years away from, you know, from being anywhere near that finals appearance, and that's OK. As long as you know where you're at, that's fine. You bring in a young kid in from 3 years' experience and you give him his head.
And that's right. You've got to acquire a talent in all different ways. You go to the draft, you get some from nothing, and if you can land a big fish, you do as well. But there's all different ways that you need to acquire some depth and talent to your list.
Let's talk about Jordan Dawson. So as we sat here last night, Adelaide was putting together a deal that would see the Western Bulldogs give them pick 17. They agreed with the Western Bulldogs as a range of draft picks that we're going to go to the Crows, including pick 17. Crows, we're going to give something out to the Dogs. And then that pick 17 was going to go to the Swans. But before doing the trade with the Dogs, the Crows needed to make sure, Ralphie, that the Swans were happy with that. And at this, as we sit here right now, the Swans haven't rejected it, but it's certainly looking like they will. The clock is ticking, so we know that the Crows want more. I think pick 17 is about right. We know the Swans want more than that. What is the Dawson camp thinking? Because they're also an important player.
Yeah, that's right. I spoke to Charlie Gardner today. Now, they're not saying specifically want pick 7 or 8, but they absolutely believe that he's a top 10 player and, you know, potentially they want something close to that. Now, those brokering the deal believe that he's pick 17 every day of the week and not more than that. They don't believe that the Swans will get more than that. He's a very handy wingman, but he's certainly no Craig Bradley. He is 6 years into the system. So, look, he's improved, but he's not a megastar. Sydney is shattered that he is left. But I don't think the emotional pain at losing a player elevates the pick that he can request. So I think he's probably a 12 to a 13. They're probably just going to have to accept pick 17 in the end.
Is he a better player than Brad Hill?
He is at this stage, yeah.
Well, they got more for Brad Hill, didn't they?
Yeah.
They got a first round, a second round. I think it was pick 10 was the early pick there. Third and best and fairest. Doesn't miss games of footy. I mean, we don't talk about durability enough. I think he's missed 1 game in 3 years.
Bradley Hill's CV was better at the time that he left Fremantle.
And Security absolutely fell in love with Brad Hill as well, and they just were prepared to give up whatever they could, whereas...
He's 24.
Yeah.
He's 20. That's a big difference.
Yes, but he's played 1 good year of footy. Very good year, but 1 good year of footy.
So what, you're not doing the deal?
I think pick 17's fine. I don't think he's worth any more than that.
17 becomes probably 2021, given the father-son.
The issue's not that you don't do the deal. The issue is that Adelaide has massive cap space. They've got a pre-season draft. They could put $1 million in his head in the first year. Sydney couldn't match that deal. So it's not that he's not pick 10 or 12 or 14. It's just that Sydney probably has to accept pick 17.
That's right. Adelaide have the upper hand, don't they, here? Because they could walk him through to the pre-season draft. Yes, Kangaroos will have the first pick. They'll work that out, that he won't go to there. He'll get to Adelaide at the next pick. So he probably is, you know, if it's pick 17, it's probably a win to Adelaide. You think that's a good get for the Crows. He's probably somewhere slightly lower than that. But Sydney, you're probably just going to have to take a deal that's probably unders what they would have liked. But that's the way that it's going because of the hand the Crows have.
The bottom line is it's a bad year to lose players because you're not getting much for them. No one's got space or prepared to give up those early picks. Or the deals for whatever reason, the way the draft has fallen, they're not prepared to do those deals. Some teams have only got one very high pick, haven't got the flexibility that they've had in the past.
And this pick 17 won't be on the table forever, Ralphie. Like, they'll pull that off the table and the Dogs will use pick 17 elsewhere. We know the Tigers want to move up the draft order, maybe the Demons as well. So it's not like this is a deal for the next 10 days. It's going to sit on the table. This could be off and the Swans and the Crows could be back to square one.
Well, just to illustrate it, Gold Coast is considering moving on pick 19. It probably won't happen for Darcy McPherson. So right now there's about 6 or 7 clubs that are desperate for pick 19 in various ways, Melbourne and Brisbane, who would give up future first-rounders as well. So that pick 17 is such a valuable commodity. You might just have to snap it up and you could see what you could do with it from there.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens because I feel like the Swans and Crows thought they were getting close last night. I'm not sure they're close at all at the moment. Let's talk about Carlton, Ralphie, and where their list position is at. They're very active in this trade period.
They are. So Carlton and Fremantle are really comfortable on the Adam Cerra front. Now, it could be as simple as pick 6, a Carlton future second-rounder, and then Fremantle gives that future third-rounder back. Lewis Young will get into the Blues for a very late pick. Now, Sam Petruski-Seton will leave. Now, potentially, if that's pick 52, you might even hand that on to the Western Bulldogs for Lewis Young. They'll be really well stocked given George Hewitt's come on board as a free agent. What's your expectation with Michael Voss? Because this is a club that 6 years ago said that they're going to put into place a 66-game rebuild. Now, that was April of 2015. It's a bit like that 5-year plan that never ends. Look, Michael Voss will have some honeymoon period, but they've got to get cracking, don't they? What do we expect next year?
Oh, they do. I'm pretty bullish on Carlton. You look at their list profile, they are coming into a real sweet spot in their career. I mean, their key forwards, the tools we know, are young but still got upside. Their smalls with Zach Fisher and Cunningham and Fogarty have all got have got upside. Their midfielders have still got upside in a sweet spot with their age profile and even their defenders. And now if you get Sard and Williams back there, but Wiedering and Kemp and Stocker and even Williamson and Marchbank, I think they're in the sweet spot. I think they should be aiming to play finals next year, absolutely. But if not, their window's open for the next 3 years. I think if Michael Voss can get their game plan right and, more importantly, change the culture and the mindset of that playing group, like what we've seen Simon Goodwin do to Melbourne, they've got huge upside, the Blues.
They won 8, if we can be blunt about this, they won 8 games last year playing half the game. They didn't have complementary football at all.
Side of the ball.
They didn't have defence complementing the way they attacked. It was one or the other, and that doesn't work. So I think the 8-win platform is a lie. I think they're a far better team than that. I've been a fan of their list for a long period of time. The spine is set. They've got a great spine. I say a great spine, particularly forward of centre. Wiedering's only young. He's going to be there for another decade. Jones is playing the football. I know he's 30, but he's going to play for another 3 or 4 years playing that level. They'll ask less of those guys down back. And then you build through the middle. I mean, we haven't seen Kemp. We haven't seen Philp. We haven't seen some of these guys yet. So you add Cerra in there, and I think Michael Voss has got a great hand to play. I would be surprised if they're not in the 8 or on the edges of the 8 next year. They'd be really disappointed if it wasn't a 12-win season.
So 11 wins, they finished 9th, they have some improvement. Is that a pass or a fail?
Oh, it's too early to say.
That's a fail. That's a fail. They finished 9th this year. They're expecting to play finals next year. That's a clear fail. I think the line is at finals. As a minimum, they've got to win a final, I reckon. They should have been in the finals this year.
They've won 41 games in
a final's a big jump from where they are.
There's no pass or fail. It's how they go about it. It's what it looks like. They might lose a couple of close games, or if you're seeing a style of football that is sustainable, that's built off the team defence, that they can springboard off, they may have a year where they just really need to galvanise together and get the game plan and system right and then springboard off it. But no doubt, we'll see some improvement from the Blues, and they should be really bullish. I think they've done a great job at their list profile.
I don't know if the Carlton fans are this faithful and this comfortable with it. 41 wins, 188 losses. They are so...
That's nothing to do with Vossi.
Yeah.
All those numbers you want to talk about and the previous 5-6 years is nothing to do with Michael Voss.
You just said they've only been playing half the side of the ball.
That's not Vossi. That's the previous coaching, and they've been moved on for these reasons. So we're not talking ill of the dead. We're just talking about what's actually going on. It's an 8-win platform that should be 10 or 11. I'd be surprised if they didn't win 11, 12 minimum next year.
That's Luke Say's expectation. That's what he said. We want to be playing finals.
Yeah, but he said a lot. He said a lot in this off-season that didn't come to fruition. So let's not pick apart everything.
And sometimes he didn't say much at all, Kingy.
Well, no, look, I think it's a great place for Carlton fans to be right now. I think they should be excited about the next 5 years, actually giving them an opportunity to win one. Not necessarily... I don't buy into whether you finish 8th or 7th or 9th or 10th next year. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's trending the right way and they're building towards a premiership opportunity.
Well, let's be honest. To be a destination club and land Cerra, Hewitt and Young, considering what they've been through, the way that the instability with the board, the coaching situation, to still be a destination club, it's credit to them that they've been able to lure Cerra and Hewitt and Young to the football club because, as we said, they've had all sorts of issues, but they look pretty good going forward.
So I think that that Sam Petrevski-Seton will be a handy little pickup for West Coast. I just don't think he's ever going to turn into the Luke Shuey that some people have said, OK, he can be the heir apparent there. I just would love to talk about, you know, these young draft picks who have 4 or 5 years in the system and then someone else thinks we can turn them into the megastar that we thought they would be on draft day. So he's played 5 full seasons, 94 games. I think you are what you are by that stage. So look at the history of high picks who were flared out at one club and then another club said they will be a megastar. So Conker, Cale Morton, Scott Gumbleton, Jack Watts, Jimmy Toumpas, Jared Grant. You fall in love with the pick you saw 4 or 5 years ago. Do you believe he can be a star player again, or is he just a nice little half-forward flank?
No, I'm with you. I think Petrevski-Seton, we've seen what he is. He's a nice player, but for me, he lacks any real sort of strength to establish himself as a very good AFL player. I don't know where that is. He's not good enough to be an inside midfielder where he wants to play. I don't think he's you know, able to hold down a defensive post well enough, and I don't think he's explosive enough to be that guy that can play as a high half-forward. So I think he's a nice player. But I think at the West Coast Eagles, if he goes there, I think he's a fringe player at best. If they've got their full 22 available, I'm not sure he's in their best 22 from round 1.
If he's happy in playing his best football, he's an AFL player. As simple as that. I'm not as down on him as others. I don't think he's going to come in and be Luke Shuey, but I think he can come in and be a very good half-forward flanker in the competition. I mean, he's done it before. Yep. He hasn't lost his ability. He's lost confidence and he's been unhappy as a footballer. I've never seen an unhappy footballer be a star anywhere across the competition. So sometimes that refresh at a new club can give them the confidence they need to at least gather what they are, get good at what they have delivered as an underage player. I think a reset will be good for him.
Good discussion with Sam Petrevski-Seton. We'll see what happens with the West Coast. Do we expect a deal to be done in the next couple of days?
Yeah, probably pick 52. And as I say, that will give Carlton the arsenal to go and get Lewis Young, who, you know, will just be a nice third defender. I
want to ask you guys about St Kilda, because I actually think they're confused at the moment what they're doing. They're going to the draft this year, which is fine. But earlier in the year, May 25, their president, Andrew Bassett, said this: "We knew that our list profile would need to be patient to be competitive every week against the better sides, and that our genuine window would most likely start in 2022 rather than 2021. If that is the case, why are they going to heavily at the draft and not trying to bring players in to play finals next year, Joey?"
Can I ask you what that means by going heavily at the draft? Like, looking there, they've only got pick 9 and 49. So how are they going heavy at this draft?
Well, they're placing an emphasis on draft picks this year rather than trades.
Which means you basically have to give up futures, because, I mean, they haven't really got any other players in there. They're trying to bring another ruckman in. There's no one that they want to move on, apart from Ben Long, who doesn't have any takers right now.
That's right.
Would probably give you a pick 50.
So how are they getting any other draft picks in?
Well, that's what they're trying to work out at the moment.
Right.
They're inactive at the moment because it's not an easy market to get more draft picks in. But you would have thought if their list was as it was this year and didn't play finals, didn't really get close, let's be honest, I know back half of the year was good, then they should be trying to bring in established players rather than draft picks, if that is what their aim is.
So what are you saying? Are you saying they've wasted a season?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've changed their tack. And Andrew Bassett balked. The president balked there because they made a bad start. They finished as they should finish, and now they're confused as to where they're at.
Well, they changed their tack, or their plans have just changed because the facts have changed. They thought they had a list that was ready to be a top 4 or finals contender. They've probably shown that they're not quite. So the plans have to change because they've realised the list that they've gone and got isn't quite good enough. So they need to be a little bit more patient and try and add some more talent to it.
Well, from even the time when you moved on and they back-ended and they front-ended deals and they absolutely built a war chest. And we heard about this war chest forever. They spent $700,000 a year on Dan Hanbury. They spent $900,000 a year on Brad Hill. They spent $600,000 a year on Brad Crouch. Now, I think Jack Nunes is probably as good a wingman, given current form, as Brad Hill, and he's $700,000 cheaper. I think Luke Dunstan's probably a very similar player to Brad Crouch. You know, inside midfielder, doesn't kick it that well, $450,000 cheaper. So you have this collateral, you spend your money, and if they turn into superstars, you win multiple finals. Right now, they're half pregnant because they don't know where they're at.
And there's a void coming. My worry is there's a big hole in their list coming, because these guys they've got over the last few years: Butler, Hill, Jones, Ryder, Howard, Higgins, Jack Steels. But they've been boomed. They've been good in their own way, and some have been better than others. But that's come at the expense of some of the kids. So last year, first pick 26. The year before, 52. You know, Max King at pick 4. Next pick 41. So Max King could be a superstar, but he's going to be the one pick in that 3 years under pick 30-odd. And then you go back to Hunter, Clark and Caulfield, who I don't think are going to become frontline midfielders. And that's where you start. You start your rebuild in the absolute centre square. We've seen what the grand finalists have brought sort of in terms of weaponry. So if they're starting again now, when are we talking about that era or that period of contention?
Yeah.
Are we on a 5-year delay?
Well, it could be, and that might hurt Brett Ratten, who's out of contract at the end of next year. And they're not just getting Ben King as they would have you believe. Ben King isn't going to St Kilda, absolutely. So if they can't get Ben King and they have a bad year and it's Brett Ratten's last year of his contract, it could all come to a head in a pretty bad way, Joey.
Their age profile means they have a narrow window. So all their peak of their star talent are all mid-20s right now. So they should be in the sweet spot. They're not yet. So if it's 3 years away, they've only got a small window because all those players, you know, you're talking about Jones and Howard and Wilkie and Jack Steele and Billings and all that, they're going to be closer to 30 in 3 years' time when they think they're in their window.
So I think, do you think that's their window?
Well, they have to stick with this list now. They're committed to it. They've invested heavily in this list. This has to be the list that's going to be the team to contend for top 4. It's just going to be a small window for me for them to have that crack, which is not ideal. You want to have a window that's open for a big period of time, but they've gone all chips in, all in. Now they've got a small window to try and win that flag.
And the tiny silver lining, ravaged by injury last year. So Billings and Rowan Marshall, Gresham, wiped out. Hamstring injuries to Zach Jones there. So if they get 60 goals out of Cooper Sharman and Max King, maybe they'll be okay. Hunter Clark broke his jaw, missed 6 or 8 weeks. And so if all of those blokes come good and they have no injuries, maybe they can push hard. But as you say, it's a pretty small window.
Can we talk about Port Adelaide and a couple of players in particular? Sam Powell-Pepper looks like West Coast are interested in him. He's got a year left on his contract. Would that be a good pick-up for the Eagles, do you think?
Powell-Pepper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. I think he can offer. Yeah, I think he just hasn't been able to, for whatever reason, get enough of a crack as an inside mid, as a pure inside mid at Port Adelaide. They sort of play him on a half-forward flank. I know they've, Wines and Boak take up a lot of that, but I think Powell-Pepper's got some real upside. I think he's a player that we haven't seen the best of yet that's still got more to give.
I think we've seen a lot of him, to be honest. I'm a bit different. I think we've seen a lot of him. We've seen that he's got a low ceiling, in my opinion, as a player. He can play a little bit of midfield and win that, low 20 disposal type game where the bar is lifted now. The bar's lifted to that high 20s, even low 30s. As a ball-winning midfielder now, he can go forward and kick goals. We've seen him do that. Does he add a lot to the Eagles if he goes there? Maybe he does. Maybe he allows a bit of rotation. But I think Adam Simpson would have to have a shift in terms of playing midfielders at full forward or give them opportunity out of the goal square if this sort of player is to work for them.
So if West Coast had a choice between Petrevski-Seton and Powell-Pepper, you'd take Petrevski-Seton?
No, well, pick 56 or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer for me. What else are you going to get with that pick?
No, I'm saying who would you rather? Who would you rather?
I don't think you have to choose. I think you can get both.
Yeah.
But I just think that with pick 56 or 52, whatever it was for Petrevski-Seton, it's a no-brainer because that draft pick is a low percentage of becoming a 100-game player for you.
They need him as a wrecking ball because we saw that they play nice, pretty football at West Coast, and you'd hope that Adam Simpson would be able to turn that out over the summer. Just turn him into that, that crazy play in there that just smashes bodies. Because who else does that in the West Coast side?
They've had a horror run with injuries at West Coast. We haven't seen the real West Coast, and I've been a subscriber and a believer, and I'll stick to it. I don't think there's a lot wrong. They've still got another opportunity in this list, and if they need 1 or 2 more players just to put the edges on, I think that this is the year to have a go at it. If not, well, maybe it all does tumble down and you've had that one last opportunity.
They got a lot of players who play pretty football. He plays messy football, but it's hard, messy football, and maybe that's what they need.
Peter Laddams is the other one that could net Port Adelaide a good draft pick. Now, my information, Ralphie, is they're not going to be trading him for anything less than a first rounder this year or a first rounder next year. So if you look at what the Sydney Swans have, they could potentially back themselves first rounder next year to finish top 4. That might be a pick in the late teens. Or Hawthorn are also sort of interested in Peter Laddams. They've got a lot of picks inside 25 or 30. But I can't see a club really giving up a first rounder outright to get Peter Laddams this season, in which case he's going to go back and play for Port next year and be number 2 behind Scott Lysette. Yeah,
there's a little bit of interest from Sydney, a little bit from Geelong and a little bit from the Western Bulldogs, but I think the Laddams camp would feel like you find a club to fall in love with him and then you say, we need a first rounder back. Right now, no one's in love with him and already Port are pushing the trade value up and all it's going to do is scare some clubs off. So I think they're frustrated that our player was pushed out. Their opinion on that.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide has a different opinion, and all of a sudden you're basically dragging him back in because no one's going to give up a first rounder for him.
No, if Callum Coleman-Jones we spoke about is probably around that 20 mark, I think Peter Laddams is about the same. I think they're both got that ability to be ruck key forward. I like Laddams as a player. I think he'd be a nice sort of second ruck key forward at a club, but you're not giving up a first round pick, I wouldn't have thought.
And if Callum Coleman-Jones is picked 38, then there's no way he's a first round pick, this guy.
Peter Laddams.
That's right.
No way.
But we're not saying that we don't think Coleman-Jones is worth 38. We're saying he might end up being 38 because of the circumstances. But you're right. Yeah.
And Peter Laddams is contracted as well, which means Port can just keep him and play him next year. And maybe in 12 months' time he gets to the Swans or somewhere else. Well, in about a month's time, we've got the draft coming up on Fox Footy. It starts on November 24. It's over 2 days. And it'll be great to see the generation of players that will take the game forward on Fox Footy right here.
we talk about the players, but we should mention the families who ride every bump of the roller coaster that is a young man's football journey. Right around Australia right now, are right on the edge of their seats.
Well, they are.
With pick 2, the Adelaide Crows have selected Riley Philthorpe from West Adelaide.
You got mauled on the couch there a moment ago. The family went crazy.
With pick 17, Oliver Henry from the Geelong Falcons. With pick 9, the Essendon Football Club have selected Archie Perkins from the Sandringham Dragons.
A wonderful smile there and a tear in the eye.
Western Bulldogs have matched the Adelaide Crows' bid for Jamara Ugelhagen from the Oakley Chargers.
What a moment, what a special, beautiful moment.
Oh, it is. Look, those pictures are just absolutely brilliant, aren't they? The emotion, it gets to work very shortly, but what a moment for the family.
I'm as real as it comes, real as it gets. You think you ready, but you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Beautifully. You think you ready, but you ain't seen nothing yet.
One of the best in the business.
Wow, that's out of here. I'm as real as it comes.
Oh, yes, that is a beauty.
Welcome back to Trading Day. That's the Sydney Thunder winning last year's WBBL. Of course, you can catch all of that on Fox Cricket coming up pretty soon. John Ralph, you've got a strong opinion on Jason Horne-Francis, who's the name on the lips of many North Melbourne fans right now.
Yeah, well, I've written today that the Roos have a chance to put their flag on the ground over this guy. Now, they could, of course, go and bid for a Collingwood player, father-son there in Dacos, or they could just say, this is our bloke. Now, he wants to be the #1 pick. You get an extra 10 grand bonus from NAB. You reward a kid who wants to be the #1 pick in the draft, and he deals with the pressure. Here are his 3 exquisite goals in the preliminary final last week. I wanted to sell you blokes on this guy at #1. I think you're already sold.
Oh, spot on, Ralphie. I've watched a bit of footy of Horne-Francis, and I've compared him to Nick Dacos, and to be honest, I think there's daylight between the two. I think Horne-Francis is absolutely the best player in the country. This kid's phenomenal. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar, Kingy. I think he's going to be every bit as good as Matt Rowell and Sam Walsh and what they've been able to do at AFL level. When you watch him play at his age, the size, the power, the skills, and what he can do in contest and in traffic, this kid's going to be an absolute star.
Haven't heard of him before. I'll have a look into that. Now, look, the question is, will the Kangaroos bid on Dacos? Is the only grey area.
Would you, Kingy?
Well, I don't necessarily subscribe to bidding to hurt another team. If they're going to use those supplementary picks anyway, does it make any difference? Deals get done behind the scenes. We know that. I don't think they will. I think they'll call his name out. Yeah. He's ready to go.
Yeah. Do you need to pick one? You know, do the Roos need some sex appeal?
No. What would they need? It's all about winning games of footy. Okay. The sex appeal gets forgotten pretty quick when you're under the heat 0-5. No one's talking about how sexy your draft call was.
What happened last year with Jamara and any team bidding on him?
Well, the reason that Adelaide bid on him is because it pushed back the Western Bulldogs bid or pick 40. All of a sudden, they could get Jimmy Rowe. So it had an advantage there, but I think basically Collingwood, all their points are going to be wiped out anyway. I can't see there's a strategic advantage, and I just think you pick the kid who wants to come to your footy club.
Kingy, it's that time of the night again. It's time for your favourite segment and our favourite segment, Kingy's Call.
Hey, you got a slinger. Like Joey. I feel like Joey now. Hey, I just want to go back, because I think sometimes we talk a lot about the picks, the trades at the top of the tree, and whether they were great calls at the time. And we did this 5 minutes after the draft, and we'll do it again next week. The trade, we'll do it again next week. But let's go back and see who's winning some of these ones from last year. So Jeremy Cameron was the whole trade period last year. 3 first-rounders left and a couple of second-rounders come back, so it wasn't as bad necessarily as that looks. Have you seen the first year?
He didn't achieve what the Cats were hoping he was going to achieve. He didn't elevate them to the next level, so you'd have to say the Giants are currently winning that one.
Treloar effectively went for pick 17, which was Oliver Henry, who's going to be a ripper.
Absolutely, Treloar. Yeah, magnificent preliminary final. Had 2 of 3 great finals, 3 or 4 great finals. Yeah, hit the Dogs for me.
And some finances as well, which will put that even more in the Dogs' favour.
Adam Sard, I thought he had a fantastic year. Adam Sard did a lot right, and a lot was made of his year. Pick 10 we haven't really seen yet. Zach Reid?
I'm OK with trading their pick 10 for Sard. As I said, I think they're in the sweet spot. They needed a player like him. I think Carlton will end up winning this trade, absolutely.
Benny Brown was one we thrashed around for a few days. He obviously is now a premiership player. Got the does he get tattoos? Does it affect you if you're a vegan getting tattoos?
I don't know.
How's that work? We get a henna tattoo.
know this one, the Alir one. The
Alir one was a ripper.
Yeah,
All Australian. It's an absolute steal. Just some of the other ones I want to talk about that were steak knives. Pick 67 for Hind. You've got who was it? Fantasia, just for points really at pick 30 odd. Hickey.
Yeah.
Pick 60 odd. So
Pitch your fourth for
I
Tom
think
Worthing,
those sorts of guys are more important than the ones at the top of the tree.
Ralph, are we getting any trades tomorrow?
Ooh.
Nothing of any significance. There's a few Chera will get done, I think, late this week. Maybe Lewis Young, but Rats and Mice picks none of the megastars, and there's not too many megastars. Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. We'll wait and see with Dawson as well. Well done, Joey, Kingy and Ralphie. We'll read your stuff in the Herald Sun. Just a quick one on the Saints. Just one last one on the Saints, Joey. What sort of play do they need? If you're going to get any player, what are they looking for?
I think they need another ruck forward. I would have loved to have seen them go after Peter Laddams. I think they need someone to complement Rowan Marshall going forward. Ryder's probably got 1 year left.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them find another sort of second ruck key forward.
Very interesting stuff. We're going to wait and see what happens with that. I don't think they're into for Peter Laddams. Maybe Rory Lobb might be the right one. We'll speak with that tomorrow night on Trading Day. Same place, same time, 5 p.m. on Fox Footy. Catch you then.